Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Wired for Wellbeing podcast, where each week we offer a nervous system perspective to help us live, love, and relate better in life. I've learned so much from this work and from Dr. Jeffrey Rutstein, who will be joining us here in a moment to unpack the theme we're going to look at today. Without further ado, let's bring him in. Hi, Jeffrey. How are you?
Hi, Steve. I'm really good. How about yourself?
Doing really well. You know, this is the second take to this intro here, Jeffrey, and I did take number one, and I was like, that sucked. And it's apropos because today I want to talk about the inner critic, because that was just my inner critic saying, Steve, you're horrible at this. Why would anybody ever listen to you, Steve? So what I'd hope we do today, Jeffrey, is talk a little bit about the inner critic, because I think it underlines so much of the work we do. It's so universal. We hear it constantly from the people we work with in the Healing Trauma Program, bumping up against these voices inside, and it's so central. So maybe we could just start like give us an understanding of the inner critic from a nervous system perspective.
Okay, that's a great place to start. From a nervous system perspective, first of all, everybody in one way or another has a inner critic of some sort. We all have a voice inside of us that can judge, criticize, offer harsh comparisons, let us know that what we're doing is not good enough, not thorough enough, not strong enough, not convincing enough, whatever it is, that we're just not passing muster. We're lacking in some way. So a lot of us really get caught up listening and entranced by this critical part of us, this inner critic. And some people's inner critic experience is so consistent throughout their life, they really just think it's them. This is just how I am. I'm just critical, and I'm just always looking at the potential problems in something, which, by the way, in and of itself can be helpful to be able to scout out the potential problems in taking an action. That's good. But the inner critic is different than just objectively looking over a situation. The inner critic is a nervous system function designed to keep us safe. It's actually not designed to help us do better, to help us exceed expectations, or to be terrific at our work. But it actually instead gets us to doubt anything we do as being good enough, or anything we think we know as, do we really know enough? Are we really clear about that? Who am I to offer this opinion?
So let's go into this a little bit and maybe help draw the line, because I think sometimes you're right. Sometimes people are like, well, it's just who I am. That's what I am. So you offered that, sometimes we can objectively look at ourselves, and then sometimes that inner voice can be filled with self-doubt. Can you give us some examples maybe on both sides of this line?
Sure. Well, the differentiator, right, is how we feel inside. So if I'm thinking about doing a new project, it would be realistic and helpful for me to look at pitfalls. Is this a good idea? Is this the best way of presenting this material? Is this format going to work really well with students who want to learn this? That kind of problem solving and thinking through is a helpful skill that many of us have. And while I'm processing something like that, I'm feeling more or less regulated. I'm in my window of tolerance. I'm not overly anxious or overly closed down and shut down and despairing. I'm interested, I'm curious, and I'm trying to refine what I'm going to do. Try to make it as good and solid and offering, as well thought out as I can. That's different from I'm planning on doing something, and then this voice keeps coming up that says, who are you? Or why do you think anyone's going to listen to that? Or why do you think what you have to say is important at all? It's kind of a consistent companion in running me down. And its message is such that it actually makes me feel bad. When I hear the inner critic versus just problem solving, I now feel a sense of collapse. I feel a little bit of caving in. I feel discouraged and doubtful of my abilities or my ideas or how good they are. I I become lost in this sense of not trusting me and believing that all I can see are the problems versus anything that's actually worthwhile doing. Instead of carrying the original energy of, I want to offer this or create this, it gets turned to, well, that's a wrong idea and you're not the right person. And this is definitely not the right thing for you. It's aimed at discouraging me from actually bringing something into the world. And it's discouraging me from doing anything but playing small.
I love this distinction because when you offered it, it immediately became clear to me that like sometimes maybe in an artistic endeavor that I'm doing, I'll do something and I'm like, oh, that's not very good. That could be better from an objective standpoint. But that's the same voice that the inner critic says of, hey, that's not very good. But when I can do that from an objective standpoint, I can then find another path through a problem that I'm solving and looking at it from that standpoint. But to your point, that feeling it, how does it feel when it's the inner critic saying it? I feel small, like I just want to crawl into my skin and I want to hide because what I've put out into the world is so horrible and how dare I? It's an interesting distinction there, getting into the body.
Right, right. It's kind of our doorway to tell, right, about whether this is a state that's helping us move forward and refine something we want to gift to the world or to a friend versus this constant patter of doubt, this constant patter of listing all the bullet points of why you're bad, not good enough, have so much more to do, how anyone would be better qualified to do this or offer that than you would be. This is universal. This is universal. And some people believe that if I listen to my inner critic, I'll do a better job. My experience is if you listen to your inner critic, you may do a good job, but you're certainly going to be miserable while you do it because you're going to keep thinking that whatever you're doing isn't really good or good enough. Right? And your inner critic never runs out of ammo to remind you that you're failing, that you're falling short, that this could be better and should be better. And if you don't want to be humiliated and ashamed, you better not do this or you better make it much, much better. Otherwise, people are going to turn to you, see you for what you are, and not want any connection with you. Because remember, ultimately, and our inner critic is a voice of shame. Shame really is there from an evolutionary perspective to maintain essential relationships, to maintain attachment and bonding in important relationships. So if I make me the problem, I have a better chance you're not going to abandon me, Steve, versus if I make you the problem and say, you've disappointed me and you haven't done this or that, I run a higher risk of alienating you, making you angry at me, and then maybe feel like I'm too much to deal with and that you'll cut off all connection and attachment to me. And my system will feel as very unsafe, right? I need you as a friend, but I need you to like me. And if all of a sudden you're not going to like me anymore, if I'm shame oriented, I'm going to feel like there's nothing that would make you want to redeem this relationship with me.
Yeah, I kind of see it as like if I make it my fault, then I'm the only one to blame if it doesn't go bad. And if I make it your fault, then I take somehow I let go of the power in that situation, and something may happen that might be out of my control that I don't want.
That could be even more threatening.
Yeah.
Right. So again, from an attachment issue, if I had to really work at maintaining my caregivers or parents' uh, positive feelings towards me or connection towards me, or they were prone to rage or violence, I would need to find a way to sort of be in their presence without being a triggering influence, without making them pissed off, because then they would just unload on me.
I gotta say, like this, it kind of sucks that we have this system that was designed to do a thing that we don't need anymore, but it just controls so much of what we do. Like, I don't mean to be a total downer, but I see what we can be up against, particularly if like we're experiencing trauma or if that voice has been really strong. It's not a very hopeful message, but it feels frustrating. So like, what's the path out?
Well, first of all, it really is frustrating. And I think that truthfully, this particular kind of piece, the shame, this voice of the inner critic, this constant doubt and feeling we're not enough, is one of the main things that keeps us from living a more satisfying and nourishing life. Because if I identify with my shameworthiness, if I identify with my inner critic, I'm going to see nothing of redeeming value in me. I'm only going to see problem, lack, deficiency, brokenness. So I can't expect that anyone would want to like me because I'm such a piece of problem, right? And no one is going to see something valuable in me if I can't find anything valuable. So while I want connection, this constant drumbeat of my imperfection, my not enoughness, actually also works to keep me isolated and despairing. Because feeling good about myself, if I'm shame oriented, is very, very infrequent. And almost always, if I have a moment, or any of us, if we have a lot of shame, have a moment of expansion, of feeling good, feeling excited, then almost always there will be a quick follow through of the opposite motion, the collapse into shame, the collapse into who was I thinking? I was all excited about that, but God, I was making up stuff and I don't, like we disavow, we minimize, we disconnect from whatever that energy was because now I can see more clearly, who was I fooling? I don't know any of this. We go back to that safer place. It's kind of like if your criticism could make me fall on my face, right? Then if I criticize myself first, you don't have to. And then I control it, right? I'm bringing it on. I'm bringing self-deprecating humor. I'm putting myself down. And if I'm doing that before you have to, I can preserve some of my worth by openly admitting how I'm not so hot. I'm not so good. But it also means that I have to play out this sense that I have to put myself beneath you. I have to let you know I'm a damaged, fault-prone human being, that I have to correct your view of me if you have like a unconditional positive regard for me. I might have the need to dissuade you from that. You know, Steve, I'm really screwed up, or I don't handle this well, or I don't handle that well. Like almost a need in the thought of being truthful and full disclosure. I'm trying to tell you some of my worst faults so that you know I'm nothing to be admired or looked up to. And it's just nice that you like me at all. Like I want to get as close to the floor as I can so that I don't have to fall there. That's one of the wins of shame is I can be in this position where I won't threaten you. I'll already be close to landing on my face. So if you do join in, it won't be that far down for me to fall. And I'm sort of trying to veer away from what would be even more torturous for me, which is a unilateral attack from you onto my being, which would be so shame-inducing, so judgment-inducing for me, I would feel like I would collapse.
There are people in my life that I would describe as having a lot of confidence. I see them taking big chances, or I see them, daring in ways that feel scary to me, if I would name it. And I'm realizing through our conversation that there's a part of me that like wants to shame them, like the shame part of me that says like, that's them, that's not you, or like they're just being arrogant, that's not you. Like the inner critic keeps telling different stories, I'm realizing, about this other person who I witness as having some confidence that I might want, but then continues to tell me more stories. Like it's this layered effect
Yes,
that seems to compound the situation.
absolutely. But number one, that's great awareness on your part that you could notice that distinction, right? Because you're actually being mindful in the moment of watching what happens to you in relationship with someone else. And this happens for all of us. And this reaction or response can happen in a split second. So, one of the things, and I'll just touch on here, we may go into this in another episode, is the idea. Hold on, I just lost my thought for a second. Growing up, we are taught by our families and culture about what aspects of ourselves might be unacceptable to the family or to culture at large. And we tend to take those traits, personality traits, nervous system traits, and put them away in our shadow, which was first a term coined by Carl Jung, meaning a place where we sort of relegate our impulses, needs, beliefs, and feelings that feel unacceptable to either ourselves, our parents, the church, synagogue, or culture. And so, because of that, we, say for you, Steve, push away arrogance, because arrogance may feel like you're being narcissistic, thinking too much of yourself, and you don't want to err in that side. But our nervous system regards other people who might be confident. We might feel that they're being inauthentically competent, and they might be. They might be claiming they know much more than they actually do, or that they have all the answers when they don't. And sometimes our nervous system picks up the contrast between the words that someone's saying and the feeling that we get from their presence. And they may be saying, I got it all. But our feeling in our nervous system as we're listening to them is, why don't I trust you? Or why do I feel like you're trying to manipulate me and tell me that you have it all? Why can't I just feel that in you or sense that in you? So sometimes our nervous systems will help us integrate, oh, yeah, this is a person who really sounds like they know it and they feel like they know it too. Versus other times when people are talking the good talk, but they're not doing the walk. And then your nervous system is detecting the space between what they're saying and their actual authentic place in the world, right? That they're not aligned, that they're talking a better game than they're living. But your nervous system, again, will tend to place anyone who's speaking from confidence in the potentially arrogant, kind of narcissistic, know-it-all kind of way, right? And make you feel safer by underplaying yourself, thinking that you're not as bright, not as talented. This is what we all do, right? It's one way of shutting us up. So you can admire them in some ways for feeling confident. You can also be critical of them for some of the ways which feels like it goes along with them being confident. And all of this is telling us, actually, not about them, but about your nervous system trying to find, how can I relate to confidence without leaning in one direction and becoming arrogant, and without leaning in the other direction and becoming consistently self-doubting.
I'm wondering if we can. I very much appreciate taking this time on my issues, but I want to expand it to allow other people to kind of see themselves in this.
Sure. So I think we all have this voice, and it all comes up in greater and lesser ways. And healing is not getting rid of our critical voice, but healing does invite us, and this is the essence of all nervous system healing in general, but the idea of healing in this particular example is about forming, creating, growing a new relationship with our inner critic. Most of the time, our inner critic or the narration of shame comes up And we either try to push it out, not, I don't want to hear that. Don't listen, don't listen, don't listen. Or we fall into it. Oh my God, it's right. Oh, I'm so horrible. I'm so bad. There's no excuse for me. So we either push it away or we succumb and get engulfed and hijacked by it. Either of which leaves us not in control and more spinning. But to change that always starts with the first step, which is notice and name. There is tremendous power when we can notice what's going on and then name it. Naming it gives us a little bit of a handle and invites us to have a little bit of observational distance. So instead of me being in the storm of shame and self-doubt and inner critic, I can name, oh, look, there's the inner critic that's trying to take over right now, or that's shouting orders. So notice and naming is the first step to just even being able to name this process going on in us. Inner critic is loud. Inner critic is speaking. Inner critic is drowning me out.
Okay, but that seems like the intellectual part of me is like, great, you've named it. It's still there.
Right, right.
Now it's got a name. It's now you know it's making you feel like crap. Great.
Right. But what we're not underscoring here is that, and it won't occur to you because you're thinking this, but in the moment, if I could help you regulate just a little and turn towards the critic, you would actually experience the critic slightly differently. You would see it as a feature rather than as the absolute truth about you. And you would also feel not as much reduced inside of it, like you've now become the size of this little conflict, but you can see it for itself. You can see it for what's occurring. And again, that's one of the pivotal points of how to work with the nervous system, is turning towards it in a sense of openness versus trying to fight it off, suppress it, starve it of oxygen, strangle it down. All the things we do to try to muscle through our stuck points, our suffering points. So again, naming and noticing is a beginning, but it really does begin to change our experience. And that's what this is about. The other thing is, it's really important to begin to learn again and again that shame and the inner critic are not speaking truth to you. Shame and the inner critic, and again, you can tell this by the quality of your inner experience, are bringing up stuff that part of you fears is the darkest truth about you. That you are absolutely shameworthy or unlovable or not respectable or a child instead of an adult or someone who's out of control versus in control or someone who's too needy or too aloof or too dependent. Too much or too little. That's how we end up. And it's this trance that we end up bouncing in and out of all day long with big things and with little things. But this keeps coloring our day, right? It keeps adding in this sense of not enoughness, of lack, of we're the problem. We keep coming back to somehow we're the problem in life. And there's lots of reasons why humans do this. But the truth is, most of us get stuck at just seeing us as the problem in life and don't get past it. And if we begin to see our inner critic, our voice of shame, as just that, these voices of the nervous system that are not speaking truth about us, but are speaking words that are designed to instantly trigger a contraction, both muscularly, but also pulling back from offering things, pulling back from saying what we really feel, pulling back from stating our truth, pulling back from asking for something we might need, because we begin to play it very safe when shame begins to rise up. And why shame is so convincing is because it always co-arises with this horribly strong, embodied sense of painful doubt and collapse. So it's one thing to have a fear that I'm a bad person, but it's a totally different thing to have that thought accompanied by a gripping sensation in your body that makes you feel like your heart is empty and your stomach just fell away. When we have that strong of a physical reaction, we tend to then assume that any thought we're having that's associated with that must be true. So if I'm thinking this thought and I get angry, it must be true. If I'm thinking this thought and get afraid, it must be true. That's not really the truth. It's the other way around. Whatever state I'm in will get me to believe the truth of the story of that state. If I'm in shame or inner critic, my truth will be that I'm really more of a problem than a benefit, that there's more wrong with me than anything could be right with me. And when each of us falls in our own time under the purview of this inner critic, our life is guided and directed and sort of boundaried by the limitations of disdain, criticism, shame, humiliation. And that it's something that some of us swim in and day out, in little ways and in big ways. And it leaves us feeling that we're at fault. Everyone else can do this, but I can't. Everyone else can take a risk, but I can't. Everyone else can like themselves, but I can't.
There are two scenarios, Jeffrey, that I want to invite you to speak to. One is maybe what the effects of trauma do to this journey for people, as well as, and I don't have the right words, so you might have to help me here, but maybe people who have something in their past that, I don't say they're worthy of shame, but something really potentially challenging in their past that they're aware of and working through. Maybe it was they committed a crime or did something when they were dysregulated or did something from their dysregulation. So I actually don't know what I'm trying to express there in that second case, and maybe you can help me with that. So trauma and whatever this other thing is I'm trying to describe.
Okay, so we all have this capacity to have an inner critic, everybody. If you've had trauma or adverse experiences, hunger, poverty, homelessness, war, natural disasters, or violent death in the family, childhood sexual abuse, neglect, all of these things increase our nervous system's tendency to collapse into shame. And in many families or cultures where there was abuse, physical or emotional, there is often a component of being shamed and blamed. So trauma itself, just experienced trauma, the shock to the system amplifies shame. But in addition to that, if you were also told that you're shameworthy, that you're no good, that you're stupid, that no one wants to listen to your ideas, that you're thoughtless, you're selfish, you're arrogant, whatever it is, if you were actually told, programmed, if you will, to believe and hold on to some defining characteristics about you that were shameful, well, then that even further increases our feeling that we are shameworthy, that we carry a lot of shame. So the more trauma or adversity you have, the stronger your load of shame will be, and the more likely you'll believe your shaming thoughts. We all do to an extent, but again, the more traumatized you are, the more deep that belief will go. And, there's also a difference between separating, like say in the past, I had an addiction problem, or I committed a crime, or I wasn't truthful on a forum. I could have guilt about those things, right? But that's regret and remorse and guilt about a behavior, a specific time. Shame is different because it's global. It's not I did something wrong. Instead, shame says, I am wrong, down to the bone. I'm just wrong. No, it's not that you didn't get that card in time. It's you do nothing on time and everything wrong. So there's this feeling of inescapability when we touch into shame too, that it's like, I'm already just a problem and I just got to admit how bad a problem I am. That doesn't give us a sense of hope or agency to change it. That's also part of what's embedded in this inner critic or sense of shame is you just have to lie in this bed because you made it and it's the truth. You can't ever change it and you're just going to die. It's hopeless, dark, bleak, and never ending. And that's the uplifting part.
Well, this was fun kind of going into this this dive into the inner critic and unpacking it a little bit. I think helping us understand what's going on here is so key to us reclaiming some of our autonomy and control. And I realize we unpack some different neuroscience polyvagal terms here. We do have an episode where we go a little bit deeper into like the theory and the principles. That's a great starting place if you're new to this work or you want to explore what it is. The title, which I'll give to you, is What's Controlling You Without You Knowing It. So if you go back through the feed and look for that, you'll get a little bit more of the background of why we're here, if it feels like that would be helpful for you. Jeffrey, we're here to help people and we're here to unpack what's going on. And we do that a few different ways here by just taking a topic like this and unpacking it. But we also have an opportunity for people to write in their questions, either via voicemail or email. And I know that that can feel really scary to people. There's
Yes.
a big vulnerability. So can you speak to that and then maybe let us know where we can send those questions?
So I've actually gotten a bunch of emails saying that I'd like to submit a question. I'm afraid of it identifying me, or I'm afraid that it won't be the right question to ask, or that you've already asked it. And what I tell people is any question is fine. Any question that you have about struggles that you keep repeating, patterns you find yourself in, attempts to change that don't stick or last, or things that you've noticed about yourself that even though you intellectually understand that you have a good understanding and some insight about this, the pattern or this tendency just keeps driving your life.
And I could see how much the inner critic might be telling people, don't ask that question.
Exactly.
Don't
Exactly.
don't ask
That's
that. That's a dumb question. Who are you?
right, right. I think that in truth, our inner critic shows up in so many ways most of us don't anticipate. And this is just one more of them. Oh my God, my problem won't be worthwhile, or it won't be as interesting, or it'll just get a yes or no answer. It'll be like disappointing. And I really want to welcome, the reason that we're doing this is to help as many people as possible understand the value and power in this perspective and how it can give you a sense of agency and clarity about your own life, and to actually partner with your nervous system to have a capacity for enjoying in life and connecting with others that perhaps you've never fully been allowed to have before. And one of the reasons for many people is this inner critic or shame. That's just one reason, but it's a big one for many. So, any question you have around shame, anger, fear, addictions, struggles, self concept, anything like that is welcome. About relationships and patterns that you see in relationships you have that you'd like to change or that you'd like a different take on, we would love for you to share them, and we will be happy to see if we can answer your question.
So if you've got a question you'd like to send in, I'll put the instructions in the show notes. But Jeffrey, maybe you can share with us right now where people can send things.
Sure, sure. If you'd like, we'd love a voicemail, and you can call 866 357 5156. Or if you can't reach the 866 exchange, feel free to send an audio recording. And if you can't attach an audio recording, just send a plain email and send that to hello@drjeffreyrutstein.com. Also, we have another week or so left of registration for the flagship program I lead with Sounds True, that 9-month deep dive, the Healing Trauma Program. So if you're interested in checking that out, we start again end of January. So check it out. It's only offered once a year, and see if that's a match for you right now. Steve, thank you as always for being here and for having these deep explorations together. It feels really good to do it in connection.
Yeah, I agree. I learned so much from doing it, and I get so much gratitude for trying to share this with all of those people out there who hope benefit from this. So thank you. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Remember, this podcast is for informational purposes only and isn't a substitute for professional mental or physical health care. If you're struggling, please reach out to a qualified mental health or physical health practitioner. Thank you all for joining us today. And until next time, bye for now.